But at the moment, what we're really trying to do tonight is to tackle some of the real issues that we've heard when we've been leafleting for this meeting. People are genuinely concerned, you know, upset, talking about a whole scenario of different things, which I didn't have the answers to, right? But these two guys that were brought along, and there's others in the hall, that actually can answer some of those questions. And I'm just going to open the meeting to you, because it's your meeting. Right.
That was very illuminating. But what you done was you listed a number of things that's going to happen. I think most people have some idea of what's going to happen. I think the important thing, especially for a group like this, is to know what we can do to combat that, to stop it from happening. And if it does come in, how can we, overcome it? I'd like somebody to answer that.
Gary's actually right. This is a tax. And considering that the Tories haven't got a mandate in Scotland, why the hell should we be paying this tax? And another thing, it doesn't affect me, but by God, I'm going to fight for the ones it does affect. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And honestly, I really think we should all just stand together on this. I'm a member of a tenants group, and what I've been getting told is, oh, it doesn't affect me. Tough. All stand together and we'll fight it like we did with the poll tax. Yes. We've got to fight, and really got to fight
it. The first thing was there wasn't anything mentioned about the right to buy, and I have a 2-bedroom flat, and if I was forced into moving into a 1-bedroom flat, how would that affect my right to buy under the bedroom tax? I'm also surprised there's nobody here representing Edinburgh Council. As you say, the council have to be working together with various organisations, including tenants, residents' organisations, in order to try and do something about this. Will social landlords, you stated also that social landlords need to be compassionate. My experience of Edinburgh Council, through being a secretary of a residents association and campaigning, is that there is very little compassion in social housing, and I just want any comments regarding these matters. Thank you.
What you did say was that they're going to pay the universal credit come October, but they're paying it in arrears. Is that right? So people will not have money, which they normally would have, given to them, and it's all going to be paid like a month later. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, most benefits are paid in arrears anyway, so there is actually waiting days for benefits to be paid.
But if the way that it normally gets paid, people know what they're paying out every week.
Aye. Yeah, I mean, the idea...
You're saying that that's actually got to change.
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind it is to make it much more like salary payments.
Right.
Because this is part of the policy idea, is that universal credit should be kind of seamless whether you're in work or out of work. And the idea is that people get the skills for budgeting when you're in work, when you're on benefits, that would be better. That's when the idea's thrown up, why it would be paid directly to the claimant in a lump sum and in arrears. I mean, obviously that doesn't really take into account the real world for the vast majority of people living on benefits.
And I think that's actually going to be one of the most crucial things. I mean, I think the bedroom tax is going to come in first, but I think what's going to happen to universal tax, having lived here through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the thousands, and having watched the whole impact of what happens to communities like this, it's actually, this is going to be worse than the 80s, and the 80s were the worst. Before that, it was the 60s and 70s, but I actually think, and I speak for a member of the North Edinburgh Credit Union as well, we know the impact all this has been having, and slow dribs and drabs, it's going to be 10 times worse for people that are savers and have accounts, for instance, with places like credit unions, where they know what they pay out every week. And it's going to be devastating, I think.
Okay. Michelle?
The eviction, can we just withhold our rent and make it known we will only pay our rent if they scrap the bedroom tax, or is that legal?
I'll come to that.
We'll come back to that. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay. Barbara. In the middle, Barbara.
Is it true if your bedroom's under 70 square feet, that you shouldn't have to pay bedroom tax on it because it's classed as a box bedroom? Aye. Because the rule seems to be in England, but when you phone up the advice place, they don't have a clue about anything about these rules.
We'll come back to that.
Right.
That's a good question. But actually, I'm going to ask the speakers two more, and then I'll ask the speakers to come back, and then we'll go back to the body of the kirk, as it were.
I seen a thing on the evening news a couple of weeks ago saying the Edinburgh District Council were going to outlaw the bedroom tax. Is that true?
Well, there's councillors here, so maybe they can say a bit.
I was listening earlier on to that lady that was talking about the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s and the thousands. We're talking about 60 years and nothing's happening. We've had change of governments, we've had this, we've had that, and we've still got the same problems. What the fuck's happening here?
I just wanted to ask one question, which was about what you said about the House of Lords coming up with some clause which might actually stop it all. Can that be followed up as a way of fighting the House of Commons? No.
The discretionary payment you spoke about, the council can award to help with the cut on the benefit. Is it a one-off payment, or is it for a period, or is there a shortfall or whatever?
Okay, I'm going to ask the speakers. Obviously, somebody spoke about that payment. We've also withholding the rent. We've also talking about the House of Lords. There is a pick-up where there's like...
It's contained. We can help you with that if you want to come down to the centre. It's contained in the legislation about what the right to buy is in one of the House of Scotland Acts. So you can certainly, we can give you advice on that straightforwardly. Yeah, but I mean, bring your tenancy agreement with you just to see what's in that. But right to buy generally is not necessarily linked to the property, but linked to the length that you've been a tenant of the local authority for. So that's the general rule, but you have to check it out in the individual circumstances, yeah.
All right, Gary.
There's a couple of points that are quite similar that might address the two at the same time. When you're talking about not paying, no advice agency will tell you not to pay your rent. Right? If you don't pay your rent, you'll be evicted. Right? And it's that simple. That's no my choice. That's no my decision. But I work with the gentleman again in the middle here was saying about how social landlords don't act like they're charities, and they don't. In many cases, they don't because they treat them like they're businesses, right? And you're stopping their income, and they will push for eviction. And it's just that simple. You can board up your doors, then the police will come and help you get evicted. That this is what will happen. And I appreciate that might not be what you want to hear, but that's why I've came here, is to tell you facts. That there is kind of other things. You can go to other groups where they'll tell you there's things about going back to the phone trees like they did back with the poll tax, and that's fine. But if evictions only one on the doorstep, they're one in the courts, right? They're one behind the scenes before they come to your door. So I would urge you that if you're... Sorry? The decision's already made. Aye, so I would urge you, see if you are going through this stuff, don't sit and date in isolation. Come and see Roddy's organisation, phone up shelter, look for support, because... I couldn't sit here and tell somebody not to pay their rent because you'll get evicted. However, if you do get evicted for any reason, the local authority has an obligation to accommodate you, right? So they need to put you up in homeless accommodation. They need to have a... No, I know. There's a caveat with the temporary accommodation at the moment that the bedroom tax is unlikely to affect you if you're in temporary homeless accommodation. However, the problem's going to be moving you for that temporary accommodation because all the single berth properties are already going to be occupied and they're no building anymore. So again, I would love to be sitting here telling you something different, but I can't tell you anything different than how we see it. It's 3 months. 3 months is the figure, but see if it's only the bedroom tax element of it, then that's £14 a week. What's that, about £60 a month? So whatever your rent is, when that builds up to the 3 months, so if it's only bedroom tax...
I could just pay it every 3 months.
No, because where are you going to get the money for that every 3 months?
Because if I was willing to pay it in the first place, right, I'm talking about withholding it. I'm not talking about no paying it, I'm talking about withholding it.
You don't get to withhold it.
That's going to...
The money
I
comes
thought it was
off
supposed to
its
be going to give us the rent money.
No,
They
the money
decide
comes
to
off. The
rebate.
money comes off its source. See, before you get your housing benefit, the 14% is deducted. You don't choose to keep that part. That money is deducted at source.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the actual rent money.
I think the point that you're making is part of like can pay, won't pay type of idea. You're talking about actually withdrawing, withholding your rent as part of a protest, and that you would then, to curtail any eviction, you would then pay the rent in arrears that would then create issues and whatever. I'm sure that some people will be talking about that type of thing. But what Gary said, as far as his organisation is concerned, he is here to tell you the kind of facts for his angle. I think there may well be discussions much wider than tonight where that might be talked about, but we need to seriously think what the consequences of that are. You do not want to see a situation where you could not stop somebody from being evicted because you've encouraged a won't pay. If we encourage a won't pay campaign, then we better be in a position to stop evictions because people will get evicted. And if people are getting evicted, we better have a movement. But that's something else that may come out of this meeting that might know.